Hello everybody, welcome to the Boxing Science Podcast. This is episode 30 and it's going to be a Q&A episode. So the subjects that we're going to be covering today is alternatives for the trap bar deadlift, optimizing time in the red zone during your conditioning sessions, hypertrophy for boxing and where we should be looking to gain muscle mass, reactive strength for the upper body, heavy bag intervals, and then we're going to be finishing off by talking about swimming for boxing. If you're not subscribed to the channel yet, please hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future content. And also, if you like the content, please hit the like button, give us a rating or give us a review, whatever is appropriate to the platform that you're watching or listening to the podcast on. First question is from Davide Venuto, and he asks whether the trap bar deadlift can be replaced with kettlebell snatch or kettlebell cleans, because looking at a limited space, limited time, and limited facilities as well. What I would say is that kettlebell cleans and snatches are a useful exercise to use. However, they're more speed strength and strength speed exercises, whereas like the trap bar deadlift is looking to increase strength and maximal strength. So we are losing some peak force demands and obviously rate of force development demands during the kettlebell clean and snatch. Kettlebells can be a great alternative for the trap bar deadlift, but you've got to just be smart on how you use it. And also it all depends on the amount of load that you have. So if you've got a lighter kettlebell or heavier kettlebell, the heavier the better if you're wanting to replicate the trap bar deadlift and looking for strength and maximal strength adaptations. Some of the alternatives that you can do, kettlebell RDL. You can also do kettlebell sumo deadlifts. You can add a band to this. This is something that we use quite often at Boxing Science in the early stages of training camp. This is because we can create that speed, intent and acceleration during a sumo deadlift, kettlebell sumo deadlift, and also can get a good high RPE on that as well. That can be a fantastic alternative to trap bar deadlifts without exposing them to too high loads at the start of training camp. So the kettlebell sumo deadlift with the bands is a fantastic alternative for a trap bar deadlift. If you don't have access to the bands to be able to strap them down and perform the sumo deadlift, and maybe you've got some lighter kettlebells, doing some banded kettlebell swings will increase that rate of force development and also hip extension forces. And then if you don't have access to a band, you can do some kettlebell jumps. Using loaded jumps, fantastic way to increase rate of force development and can actually increase momentum, which is an important contributor to punch force. And this can actually be sometimes more beneficial, more effective than a heavy trap bar deadlift. So doing kettlebell jumps is a fantastic alternative. Now, when we're actually talking about kettlebell cleans and kettlebell snatches, they have a place in boxing, but I would say that it's more of an assistance exercise or maybe an extended warm-up. The reasons why is because the technique is quite challenging. So the rate of force development and then force demands will be quite reduced, which means that it's not actually overloading, not creating that physical adaptation that we need to increase the rate of force development and to transfer into fast and explosive actions. So the kettlebell clean and kettlebell snatch, use it as part of an extended warm-up to prep the athlete. It's great for that rapid kinetic chain sequencing, hip extension, and be able to catch it or pop it overhead. Fantastic for postural health and shoulder health as well. Probably use that as an extended warm-up and then really focus on if you're looking to replace the trap bar deadlift with kettlebell exercises, making sure that you're making the right adjustments to your kettlebell lifts to make sure that you're still meeting the demands to create physical adaptations to get faster and stronger. So this question is from Joe Cocker. This is on YouTube as well. I perform 17 kilometers an hour on 4 minutes on, 2 minutes off, and struggle to hit the red zone. What can I do? With this, I think that Joe's got to a pretty high level on the 4 minutes on, 2 minutes off. For him to say to run faster would be quite difficult for 4 minutes on, 2 minutes off. Some of our athletes will even struggle to do that. The best that I've ever seen is 19 kilometers an hour. So the option of run faster is out the window. So what can we do around that to help optimize time in the red zone and red zone adaptations? The most common thing is probably if you're doing it on a flat surface, doing it on flat treadmill, making sure that you're increasing the gradient to 1.5. If you're already doing that, potentially just increasing it by 0.5 to 2%, or even up to 2.5%. So that would be an option. Also, what are you doing in your warm-up? Are you getting towards that red zone or potentially zone 4, so between 80 and 90% of your maximum heart rate before you go into your 4 minutes on, 2 minutes off? If you're not doing this, what you're not doing is switching on them VO2 kinetics to get your heart working, get them lungs working, to really fire up into the red zone. So you may want to look at your warm-up. At Boxing Science, we often, for most of our runs, we do a 4-minute warm-up where we start off, let's say 9 or 10 kilometers an hour, and we increase the speed by 1 every minute to try and get that heart rate elevated before going into the main session. You can also do this, and let's say if you're struggling to even get up into the 80 to 90%, after the 4 minutes, you can do like a series of 30-30s to increase that running intensity and then go into your 4 minutes on, 2 minutes off. Let's say you're doing this and you're still struggling, you can look to alter the intensity during run. So a famous session that we use at Boxing Science is called the Dragon's Back, and this is from Red Zone Running, and we've actually got a video on this, and we'll put the link in the description. The speed adjusts through the 4 minutes, so it starts off high, drops low, goes back high again in the center, goes low, and then really finish off on like a higher speed. And this alternating kind of intensity levels will create spikes in your heart rate, which will elevate the heart rate into that red zone above 90% of your maximum heart rate. That's one run. The other run that you could do is called the Warrior's Code, which is 6 minutes on, 2 minutes off, where we're increasing the intensity at the start for 1 minute, and then you drop it a little bit for 2 minutes, and then you finish off with 3 minutes. And that is basically designed to get you to run faster, to elevate your heart rate, and then keep you there at that 90% of your maximum heart rate. Instead of like kind of saying to run faster, just look at what you're doing in your warm-up, look at the gradient that you're using at your treadmill, and then also using some alternatives to the 4 minutes on, 2 minutes off to spike up intensity, to elevate your heart rate, so you're getting that optimal time in the red zone and maximizing them red zone adaptations. Okay, so this next question is from YouTube again. Username Mohammed Tyson. If that's your real name, that's an epic name. If a boxer is moving up in weight, where should they focus their weight gain? Whether that should be the arms, the trunk, or the lower body. Now, it's fantastic that you've asked this question, because we actually produce research, part of my kind of testing battery that I created during my master's back in 2014. It's now part of a research article, Wilson et al. 2021. So if you want to give that a read, we'll pop the link in the description for you. The main place that you want to try and increase is trunk mass, and that's like basically core mass and your main kind of muscles at the center of your body. And the reason why is because in this research, what we did, we performed correlations between lean muscle mass, the lower body, the arms and the trunk, with med ball punch throw distance, which we see as a valid assessment for punch force. Now, what we found was the larger correlations was with trunk mass, with medicine ball punch piercing values R squared between 0.8 and 0.9. And these are pretty large and significant correlations. The main probably reasons why we'd say that trunk mass is more important than arms and the lower body is due to that rapid core rotation. So the main one would be like to increase the size of trunk. So what we do, just like even if a boxer isn't moving up in weight, we look to try and retain the muscle mass of the core. We pop in 4 to 6 core training exercises per workout. We look to hit the core 3 to 4 times a week, and we do increase like the amount of tension, the time under tension, and also like the amount of volume as well, to make sure that we're maintaining or increasing lean muscle mass of the trunk and of the core. Another one would be for the lower body. The next one would be for the lower body, because we know that lower body force production has a large correlation with punch force. We mainly look to try and increase that from neuromuscular training, whether that's from plyometrics, loaded jumps, and obviously maximum strength training as well, because we're limited in the amount of muscle mass that a boxer can put on. But if we're looking for like kind of increasing weight gain and moving up in weight, we would look to try and increase muscle mass of the lower body, because we know that that can have a transfer to increased force production, that can increase the amount of force that an athlete can put into punching action. So the main reason why we choose the trunk and lower body over the arms is, one, during the research, we didn't find any correlations between lean muscle mass of the arms and medicine ball punch throw distance. Now, our theory is for this is because the arm actually relaxes as it's going towards the target, and then obviously there's an increase in tension as you go towards and come into impact with the target and come into contact with the target. Your arm stiffens there, but during the flight time, your arm actually relaxes, and this is important for the speed of the delivery of the punch. If you increase the mass of the arm, this will slow that delivery of the punch down. So essentially, you're getting slower, and then because punch force is really reliant on hand speed and impulse, you're then reducing punch force from that. So with the lower body and trunk increasing in muscle mass and in strength, if you are then moving increased mass here, you might end up slowing the punch down and, in fact, reducing punch force. So we don't necessarily look to increase muscle mass of the arms unless there's a specific need for it. If you're working with an athlete that is injured around the elbow, around the wrists, and see that they probably need to gain some muscle mass around the arms, we'll look to do that. And also working with heavyweights, because they're producing a lot of force and obviously got high impact forces, and also they are probably not as fast or as reliant on hand speed. We'd look to try and improve arm mass to basically be able to produce more force through the punch, but essentially deal with them high impact forces. So there's a few different reasons why we'd look at the arms, but predominantly what we're going to be doing is looking at increasing muscle mass of the trunk first, then increasing the lower body muscle mass as well. And then for very specific reasons, we would look to increase muscle mass of the arms, but in generic, we're not wanting to gain unnecessary mass around the arms, because this can end up slowing our boxer down and in turn reducing punch force. Okay, fantastic question here, quite thought-provoking as well, from AH on YouTube. What are the best exercises to work on impact (reactive strength) for the upper body? When I first read this, I was thinking about plyometric exercises for the upper body, ballistic exercises such as like the bench press throw or medicine ball punch throw. But actually, as I've read it, what it actually means is to deal with the impact and the stiffness of the end range of the punch. Now, there's a few different things that you can do. When you're doing plyometric press-ups on a bench or with the bands, you can actually focus on the landing. So once you go into that concentric action, go into that flight, when you're actually landing, look to try and create that stiffness effect through not bending the elbows too much by not dropping down. Limitations to this is because we're doing it on the bench and doing it with bands, we're not kind of overloading it too much with our own body weight. One of the reasons why we do that is because boxers will struggle with that kind of that scapular control through high forces, and often the hips will drop, so then they're using the lower back to control them forces as well. So that'll limit the use of them exercises and look to overload them exercises. We did a workshop with Ben Simons, aka Ben the Bounce, back in 2020, and he did some really good kind of impact, like reactive strength, where he was doing some plyometric press-ups where he's leaving the hands away from the floor and then pushing through and driving through. That can help increase reactive strength and impact force. Also going onto the two benches, so really driving through that concentric action, then creating that stiffness straight away. So you're not waiting to land onto the floor. So that's quite good. But the main things that we do to create strength for impact is doing some isometric upper body exercises, whether that's the isometric punch holds or isometric floor press, to create kind of them high force demands under speed is important. So we'll do 3-second holds. So we'll go from a relaxed position into really driving through, and that will really help increase reactive strength towards the end range of the punch, and also to be able to do with them impact forces. So it doesn't necessarily need to be a plyometric exercise to increase reactive strength and to be able to deal with them high impacts. You can do isometric exercises, but the way that you do it can have a better transfer. So instead of like kind of pushing and grinding through the movement and then producing that force, going from a relaxed position and then driving into it. So I've got a good question here from Kuryoko. Is it good to work on the heavy bag for 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off? Now, this is a question that we receive quite often, and is something that, I'm a big fan of, using intervals to increase the intensity during your bag work and your pad work. Now, main reasons why is because boxers may struggle, especially high-level boxers, will be quite proficient in their technique, their timing, their fitness, their relaxation, that they probably might not reach the red zone or 90% the maximum heart rate during the normal boxing sessions. In sparring and in fighting, you're going to hit that 90% maximum heart rate. So you want to try and replicate that in your technical sessions. When you're actually looking to improve fitness through pad work and bag work, you need to make a few little tweaks to be able to get up into that red zone. And doing something like 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off is a fantastic way to do it, and something that we've highlighted through our workshops, and also during our Red Zone circuit program, where we actually have some boxing specific circuits to do on the heavy bag. Now, the main problem is doing 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off. If you're having that total recovery, what will happen is that you haven't really spent enough time or got enough intensity out of them 30 seconds to elevate your heart rate high enough to have a total recovery where your heart rate will drop significantly. What you need to do is to split up around into 30 seconds on, 30-second intervals, but alter the activity during that to basically elevate the heart rate in your high intensity zone, and then have a exercise that keeps your heart rate quite high or don't descend as much, and then can really push on it into them high intensity zones again, into that high intensity interval again, to really push on, elevate your heart rate into the red zone. So different exercises could be doing power punches, which will elevate your heart rate, to doing kind of like non-stop punching on the bag to just keep your heart rate up, or moving around, working off your jab, working off kind of 1 or 2 shot combinations, and then going back into power punches. This is something that we've done on the Red Zone circuits. If you want more information about this, the link is in the description for that. So this is quite fitness based rather than technical, but what you can actually do is mix in exercises during your heavy bag workouts to help elevate the heart rate. So you can do stuff like running on the spot, burpees, mountain climbers, and these are designed to elevate the heart rate before you go into like a 30-second interval on the bag. And this, again, probably not technical based, more like kind of towards the end of the session when you're wanting like a fitness adaptations from your boxing session. And it's a fantastic way to make sure that you're in that red zone, challenging your speed, your technique, your timing, your punch output under a fatiguing scenario. So there's loads of different ways, and like I said, we've got a range of different circuits, heavy bag circuits on the Boxing Science Red Zone circuits, and the link is in the description. So I've got a question from Lubos _, and this is from Instagram, so that's his username. Is swimming good for boxing? Now, this is a question that I receive quite often, and conversations that I have with athletes here at Boxing Science. Because like swimming is perceived to be a great fitness tool, is offloading as well. So with boxers, it can be quite tempting to start taking up swimming as part of the program when you think about the amount of hours that an athlete is on their feet in the boxing stance, doing sparring, and then obviously doing the high intensity runs and active recovery runs. You're thinking, swimming, something off feet, but still working on the fitness at the same time. However, I don't think that swimming has a place in a boxer's preparation from a generic standpoint. Obviously, there's specific scenarios where swimming can be quite beneficial. From a fitness standpoint, in terms of increasing and improving high-intensity fitness and increasing central adaptations, what can limit a boxer is their technique and also their fitness. They can be a victim of their own success because they're so fit. They might not be able to swim fast enough to be able to get up into 90% of their maximum heart rate. Because the technique lacks, that'll affect the speed and the swimming rate that they'll be able to go at, which will basically not be able to elevate that heart rate enough to be able to get up above 90% of the maximum heart rate to create them central adaptations and to improve high intensity fitness. So from a fitness standpoint, I don't think that swimming is a good tool. From active recovery, probably be able to hit the heart rates, but because the technique isn't as proficient, you can actually get some kind of local muscular endurance, whether that's from the upper body and lower body. It's not as efficient as what they would be on a bike or what they would be just like doing an active recovery run. The amount of effort that they'll have to put in to swimming at a decent rate to get the heart rate up into that recovery zone can end up being quite fatiguing. If you've ever done swimming and you come out of the swim baths after doing 30 or 40 minutes non-stop swimming, you feel it in your legs, you'll feel it in your upper body, and you can end up feeling quite drained from it as well. I wouldn't say that swimming is good for either fitness or active recovery, really basing it on fitness. Now, what it could be good for is doing some sort of mobility, doing some kind of water aerobic stuff, like improving range in your hip flexors or your hamstrings or upper body rotation, that weightless feeling. That can help active recovery. And also, if you do a few lengths and you're just wanting to have a move around, good for kind of perceptual fatigue, like reducing that. And if you feel good from it, doing a few lengths here and there and spending 20 minutes in a pool can actually be quite good. But from a fitness standpoint, to actually integrate into their plan to do every single week, to work on high intensity adaptations or to work on active recovery, I wouldn't recommend using swimming to prepare a boxer for competition. Okay guys, that's the end of the podcast. Thank you very much for watching and thank you very much for all these questions. Really enjoyed doing that episode. Of a huge kind of variation in terms of the questions and some thought-provoking questions as well. Great to engage with you guys. If you've got any questions that you want me to cover on the next episode, please leave them in the comment box below. Like I said at the start of this episode as well, not subscribed yet, please hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of our future content. And also, if you can let us know what you think of the podcast, hit the like button, give us a rating or give us a review, whatever platform that you're on. This will help boost the channel, which will help us do more episodes and create more content and get some guests in at the Boxing Science Performance Centre very soon. Thank you very much for watching or listening to the Boxing Science podcast. Hopefully see you on the next episode.